Hey there, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Friday at the Funhouse here on CA Tranquility with Martin Popoff and Pete Pardo. We've got part two of our favorite song endings. We've each picked out 10 classic tracks, or maybe not so classic, that have really kick-ass endings, or maybe just really interesting endings, or maybe kind of weird endings, or endings that are not associated with the rest of the song. Whatever. It's all open to interpretation. So good morning, Martin. How's it going today?
Pretty good, pretty good. I totally enjoyed doing the first episode, and like you say, the variety of reasons these are picked is really cool.
Yeah, really cool. So I like that shirt, by the way.
Yeah, I know, very nice design, beauty.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the whale design. I think it's just beautiful. The colors just really popped. Yeah. So available on our merch store. Look for it down in the video description below for the link. So that and lots more. So so we've each picked out 10 more tracks that have really cool endings, or endings we think are pretty cool anyway. So I'll have Martin kick us off with his first selection of the day.
Okay, so my first selection is Action off of Sweet Give Us a Wink. Action's probably my favorite Sweet song of all time. It's really smart and complicated. It's their Bohemian Rhapsody in a way, right? But I love the way that the song at the end, you get them doing the chorus, and then they do the halftime version of it. Everybody, and they stretch it out, and then it ends. Well, it's a piece of the action, and then you've got the action just going slower and slower and slower. So it's a song full of all sorts of ear candy throughout, and they end it with a cool bit of ear candy as well.
Dynamite pick. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that song as well. It's also one of my favorites. All right, so my first selection here today is from Fastway, and it's the kickoff track to side 2 or side B of their debut album, We Become One. Pretty cool, heavy song from them. One of their heavier tracks from this album, and I love how at the end you think everything's done, right? You get Jerry Shirley doing the little cymbal stuff, and then a little bit of quietness, and then all of a sudden Eddie comes roaring in with that, and it's just like, and then boop, it's done. And it just comes out of nowhere. And it's like, it's just an amazing ending to a pretty amazing song. It's my favorite Fastway song too, but I love how they just kind of come back and unleash that little torrent at the end. So that's my first pick of the day.
Yeah, it's like they're jamming, and he goes, "Wait, I've got a song idea. This. Let's work on this one. What do you guys think of this riff?" And he breaks into a new riff, right?
So he breaks into a new riff, and they're like, maybe not.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so my next choice is Thin Lizzy with Do Anything You Want To. I always have to think about how to say that title. It's like, do anything you want to do whatever, it's like, I got to look it up almost every time, but do anything you want to. And the cool thing about the ending of that song is they go into the thrumming, kind of galloping part where, Brian Downey talks about, it's really cool. We got to go out on front and play timpanis and things like that, right? But the cool thing about this one is that Phil takes the opportunity to start muttering to himself, Elvis is dead. The king of rock and roll is dead. And then goes a little more, and then he says again, Elvis is dead. So it is 1979, and Elvis died in 77, but he's probably recording it in 78 or whatever. But he was a big Elvis fan, and they did King's Call, of course, an amazing song, a solo song of his. I just always thought that was cool. It's like, we're gonna bring you some of the news. It's old news, but it's still current news to Phil. He's still thinking about it, right?
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Phil can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I think my next choice is, quite frankly, probably the longest ending out of all the ones that I've covered so far, but it's very notable. Very, very notable. So the band is Yes. The song is The Gates of Delirium off the Relayer album, and it's the whole, what is now known as Soon. So you got this big, bombastic, complex prog rocker of a epic, right? And then all of a sudden, everything kind of like slows down to nothing. And then you've got, these lovely keyboards and that amazing John Anderson vocal, soon, oh, soon the light. And he just kind of takes you through the last couple of minutes of this track. And you have that, the pedal steel guitar from Steve Howe. And it's just literally like gut wrenching. It's so emotional, so beautiful, to the point where a lot of people treat that as like a separate track. It's like it's part of Gates of Delirium, but it's its own separate song because it totally is completely different than everything you heard for the previous 18 minutes or whatever it is, length of the song. So yeah, that's I thought that was a perfect fit for this show because that's a really cool ending, and it takes you on to a totally different place. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just you're so like pummeled and exhausted after nearly 20 minutes of crazy prog rock mayhem, and then that's the only way you can kind of get the pulse rate down a little bit to get ready for the next song, which is Sound Chaser, which then takes you to Mach 11 once again. So
yeah,
there you have it.
Yeah, you said it. Mach 11, Sound Chaser, Mayhem. Like that album's pretty hard on the ears, right? But really that part is my favorite part of the whole album, right?
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, because this album, this is, it's gone on record, I think, by a couple of guys in the band that they were listening to a lot of jazz fusion at the time. So the guys were like totally grooving to Mahavishnu Orchestra and Return to Forever. And this is a pretty like spacey, jazzy album with a lot of really frantic playing and not very typical of what you'd hear from Yes. I mean, I love this album, but the soon part of Gates is just like totally almost doesn't fit on the album, but it's I'm glad it's there because it's just perfect.
Cool. All right. So my next choice is The Dog from The Damned Strawberries. There's your front cover. There's your back cover with the pig and all the trampled strawberries. Lot of stories about how that all came up. But The Dog is this really mellow song with like bass and grand piano. It's 7 minutes long. It's normally almost considered Claudia because the chorus kind of goes Claudia, Claudia, but it's called The Dog. And at the end, you get these really cool Paul Gray. You get kind of a jam, and it's very moody and mystical. And then Paul Gray is doing these bass chords, these kind of Geddy Lee style bass chords throughout. And then Dave's kind of singing along. And then you get the dogs barking, you get and this happened on Burglar as well, when we did last episode. But you get these dogs kind of barking and growling, and then they start snarling really loud. And the song literally ends with these really violent sounding dogs kind of snarling, and then it just ends. Very spooky. It's a pretty cool tune. There you go, The Dog.
You might have some dogs barking here soon.
Yeah.
A warning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, The Damned is they included. We could almost do a whole show on dogs on albums, right?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of that. Yeah, there's quite a lot of that, or animals in general, right? So yeah. All right. I feel like I have been talking about this band so much lately. It seems like every episode I've been doing, either on my show or on other people's shows, I talk about Styx. I guess because they got the new album dropping and they're top of mind. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, my next choice is Queen of Spades off of the Pieces of Eight album. One of my favorite Styx songs of all time. It's pretty heavy, but it's just a dark and menacing and heavy kind of proggy song, but it's still pretty I don't want to call it metal, but it's pretty heavy, epic sounding song. And then the track seems like it's going to end. You get those big thunderous power chords that that crazy awesome solo from, I believe it's James Young on this song. And then all of a sudden you get these kind of like lilting arpeggios coming in, and you get the synthesizer solo from Dennis DeYoung, and then the bass, the Taurus bass pedal, boom, and it just kind of like it's almost like a bomb dropped in the ocean. It's like, and then all of a sudden it just starts to dissipate out and out and out. And it's just very, very cool ending, and a totally different ending to a very upbeat and heavy song. Yeah. So it's kind of eerie, but again, I guess that's how it should be, right? So Queen of Spades.
Very cool. All right. So we're back to Yes off of Close to the Edge. Close to the Edge. You talked about last, in part one, how you like those songs that start one way and then they come back to the same theme. So with this one, you get the big crescendo of the I get up, you know, the really kind of slow ending to this. I think it's 17 minutes song. But then you get back to the really cool babbling brook sounds mixed in with I guess it is true babbling brook sounds mixed in with you know, keyboard that is kind of a babbling brook sound, almost like a looping sort of thing. So you get this cool ending, you know, back out in nature, the way the song sort of started, you know, faded in really quietly, very slow. You got to be really patient to hear that fade, right? You can't set your volume on that. You know, you got to go in to set your volume if you're going to walk away from it. So,
Exactly.
so yeah, really cool, dramatic ending to, you know, the greatest prog song of all time, right?
That's right. It totally is. Yeah, it's a great. The whole song is just perfection, absolute perfection. Good choice. All right, so kind of in line with what we were just talking about with songs kind of ending almost the way they began. This was actually added this to my list like literally right before we went on air because I was like, oh man, how can I forget that song? So I had to like boot something out. But I went with, and again, it's an album closer. And what better way to close an album with the thunderous riffage of Emerald from Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak. And again, it's not like the ending is any different. You know, you get the beginning obviously starts the way it started, you know, down the Glen came the march and then whatever. But then, you know, they launch into and the song ends that way. But if you listen to it very carefully, it's almost like the volume and the thunder is just they dial it up to 12 to finish it out, and it's just so like huge sounding. What better way to end an album with all the guys? I mean, you could just picture them all standing on stage together, right? The two guitar players and Phil just, you know, laying that riff down like a sledgehammer, and then bam, done.
Yeah.
And it's so like kind of like that's all I can think of when you think about the endings of Emerald. You put the fist up and you go right, and it's just amazing.
It
So
does
powerful.
end with that big chord, right? Just
Yep, that's it. It's just like, you know,
that's a huge chord. That's right. Yeah.
It's just amazing. So heavy.
Okay, my next choice, Black Sabbath, Children of the Grave. I love the way that this song sort of builds. There we go. Builds up. You know, it's doing the you know, and I think Bill gets to do the you know, the extra percussion track as things are moving along. But then it ends, and then you've got the wobbling sound going, and the children. We always used to, as kids, thought he was saying truth, but it's like chill, you know, of the grave, right? So it's a really scary, spooky horror movie kind of ending to that one after a thunderous, heavy metal.
Oh yeah, and you listen to that on headphones, and it's all panning all over the place. Oh, great! Yeah. It's like, don't listen to this with the lights out late at night, kids.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so I've talked a lot about in this short series about those kind of like guitar solos that take you out through to the end of the song and just literally kick your ass. Attack of the Mad Axe Man from the Michael Schenker Group, second album. You know, Here Comes Schenker, and it's this song. You know, this song is legendary mostly for all the guitar playing. It's not like it's the greatest song of all time, but man, he just kind of takes you out at the end of that song, and it's just so sweet. It's just so typical Schenker and just absolutely amazing. And I could have thought, you know, this is already the second Schenker outro guitar solo that I put in the series. I could have done a ton more, but just love it. It's just so tasty, so melodic, and Schenker, take me away.
Very cool. Right on. All right, so my next choice, we're back to The Damned again.
Here we go.
Off of Machine Gun Etiquette, their greatest album. End of side one, there's a track called These Hands, which is sort of like demented circus music. The Doors, Gillan, you know how we always talk about that, right? This one's very circusy, and it's like these are the hands of a demented circus clown, I think is the thing. So it's so you get to the end of it, and Dave starts kind of going ho 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 ho, like laughing, and then he starts laughing harder, and then he yells, "Stop laughing!" And then you hear like the high heels of a woman walking at night, sort of a Jack the Ripper sort of scene, and you just hear these heels going away, and then she goes, "Oh, and then you hear Dave like very close mic going, ha, 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 ha. You know, so it's a really cool ending. You know, and the Damned are great at that. They have a lot of, you know, funny ways that they start songs and end songs, but it's this whole little cinematic end to this demented serial killer song that is literally like a circus music song. Here you go.
Circus music is cool. I dig
Yeah.
it. It's like, make sure you listen all the way to the end, boys and girls,
Yeah.
because you might miss something if you don't. All right. Wishbone Ash. I'm going to go back to their first album for the legendary long epic track Phoenix from this album right here. You know, one of the originators, we talked about Thin Lizzy before a couple times actually, one of the originators of the twin guitar thing, right? Phoenix is this epic track with some absolutely face-melting guitar solos. Ted Turner does the main guitar solo, but then at the last like kind of 20-30 seconds of the song, he and Andy Powell come together, you know,
Cool. Nice.
perfect. And it's like, and that is twin harmony guitars to absolute perfection. There've been a lot of bands who have tried it over the years. There's only, for me, a handful that do it absolutely perfect. Wishbone Ash is one of them, and that song is a great example of it.
Nice, nice. Okay. Well, my next one is picked as another excuse to talk about the Immense Torch from Sweden, the greatest
We've seen that before.
new wave of Swedish heavy metal song of all time. Look at that band shot. Look how insanely heavy they look, right?
Yep, yep.
So Dan Dark, one of the great vocalists of all time in this whole frost-core thing that I call it. There's a song in here called Rage Age that just builds and builds, super heavy song, slow double bass going, and then it gets to the end and he just rips off this summary of the song. He just goes Rage Age, and then you just hear these like little drumstick things kind of going off into the, but it's one of the great vocal ends to the song, and it's just so metal, his voice, the way he does it. But yeah, I mean, it's a masterpiece of an album, and it's just one of the many different speeds and styles of awesome heavy metal on it, and it's just this great, you know, this place where you get to see the genius of Dan Dark. There you go.
That album cover, man.
Yeah.
We talked about that before.
Yeah.
All right, back to Black Sabbath again. Yeah, fade outs, guitar solos that fade out and take you out with the song. One of the best of all time is Lonely is the Word from Heaven and Hell. Gorgeous. And, you know, and again, this kind of goes back to the Yngwie Malmsteen one I did on the first episode. It's like where you have a guitar player that may not be known for this kind of emotional bluesy thing, and Tony's just tearing at the heartstrings in his closing solo on this, and you literally have the strings in the background, and it's just so amazing, and every note that he's pouring out, and you just never want it to end, and you just sit and listen to it, and he's the vibrato, the whole night. It's just absolutely beautiful, and sometimes I can appreciate a beautiful end to a song as much as I can a heavy hitting end or a totally whacked out weird end that doesn't kind of fit with the rest of the song, but it's notable. So yeah, Lonely is the Word from Heaven and Hell.
Nice. Okay. My next choice is Black Diamond off of that record. And I remember hearing that as a kid and finding it very spooky and weird because, you know, this is the most dramatic song Kiss had done to date. We aren't yet at Detroit Rock City kind of thing. You know, they don't have a lot of dramatic songs, but Black Diamond's totally a dramatic song. And then it starts really dramatic too. But at the end, it's you know, they get to the end and they kind of wrap it all up with a big red bow, and then they hit that big chord.
Wow.
And then then it happens again slower, and then it happens again slower and slower and slower as it fades out, and it's really spooky. And then of course in the live environment they take that opportunity to have the huge explosions every time they hit the big chord. So live or studio, it's really cool, and it's different in both cases. So there you go, studio version, Black Diamond.
Yeah, that's a great choice there. Dig it. All right, I'm gonna go to Robin Trower here, and here's a live track. So again, it's the ending is pretty cool on the studio version, but I think on the live version, which is from this album, we're talking about a little bit of sympathy, which is the closing track on here, and I'm a sucker for wah wah lead guitar. I am. In case you didn't know, I am. And this is the end of the show, and the band is, putting the finishing touches on the song, and all of a sudden they hit this big chord, da-dun-dun, and then Robin goes up, thank you very much, everyone. Good night. And then boom, and then he clicks on the wah wah pedal, boom, wah 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 wah. Bill Lorden's going berserk on the drums, and the whole band just rumbling, and then he hits the final note, wow, wow, and it's just
Very
like.
cool.
I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, holy cow, that is like an explosive ending. So that's what it's all about. So yeah, a little bit of sympathy from Robin Trower.
Awesome. All right. My next choice is off of this album here, Led Zeppelin Presence, Achilles' Last Stand. Basically what happens is they end this pretty heavy metal rockin' song with an acoustic part played on an electric in a way, right? It ends with this really cool kind of picked strumming part from Jimmy that is really kind of mysterious and moody, and it reminds you of him getting together with Kenneth Anger, and how the beginning of what's the first song on In Through the Outdoor, where it starts with all of that in the evening, right? But the first part is apparently one of those parts that, this didn't get used, whatever, for the Kenneth Anger thing, I'm going to use it here, sort of thing. This reminds me of that. This almost feels like a better Kenneth Anger sort of thing, because it's a really strange little arrangement of notes, and it's also a long song. I think it's 10 minutes, and they start it with the same thing, but it's, you get to the end of this heavy song, and then there's this really creepy electric part or electric guitar version of something that sounds like an acoustic part that just sort of fades out, and it just shows you the genius of Jimmy when it comes to coming up with some of these really cool chord progressions, I suppose is what you'd want to call it.
That's one of the greatest fade outs of all time.
Yeah,
it's a good choice. I love that, because again, it kind of like takes you to a similar avenue than what you started with. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Iron Maiden. How about a little 22 Acacia Avenue? Last song, the first side of the album. I mean, the whole build up to the end, and all of a sudden, down, 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 and here you go. Whoa.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's like a perfect segue. Yeah, I mean, I think 22 Acacia Avenue is a song that has beautiful build up throughout the entire song. And then I love that they didn't choose the fade out route on that. They just kind of like, really cemented it, hit you hard. Just a great song, great ending, so powerful. And when you go see them live and they play that, it's just like, just killer.
Yeah.
The
That's my favorite song in that whole album.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So my last choice, this could only be the last choice because it's the greatest song of all time written by anybody in all of rock and roll history, and classical and jazz, and any kind of music period, is 1967, the last song on this otherwise not the greatest Adrian Blue album of all time, Mr. Music Head. But that song, yes, greatest song of all time. And I just love how many weird, cool things he puts into it, and the humor and the lyrics. But at the end, after doing a bunch of these crazy parts that sounds like the entire Beatles catalog condensed into whatever it is, 5 minutes, he goes, now you've had another piece of my mind, a cup of coffee and a slice of time. If you'll excuse me, I should say goodbye. I got to go now. And the song ends. It's just a brilliant kind of extra little verse. There's the little tin whistle thing going. It's acoustic. And he just says, I got to go now. And the song's over. Like, it's just a brilliant end to the greatest piece of oral genius of all time, the greatest song of all time by anybody, Adrian Blue.
I need to go revisit that. I haven't heard that album in so long.
You don't need to play the whole album though. That's the thing. Just go to
Yeah,
the
I mean, some
song.
of those albums are kind of spotty anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, the first two I think are two of my favorite albums of all time by anybody. But you know, most of those later ones, there's a lot of good stuff on it. Young Lions was his big one, right? But this one I find not that good. And then yet he gets to the end of it and it's 1967. So
Cool. All right, my final choice. I saved this one for last for a reason. One of my favorite albums. It's my favorite Judas Priest album, actually. Stay in Class, Beyond the Realms of Death. I mean,
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
right?
great.
I mean, you get those, those two rampaging guitar solos, and then all of a sudden, dun 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 dun, and then Halford comes in with that wail at the end, and it's just like, oh, that just like drains you of every ounce of energy you've had, and it's just like, and it's like, it's funny because Heroes End ends the album, but I think they should have done it the other way around. I think Beyond the Realms of Death would have been the best album closer in heavy metal history. Yeah. But such a great song, takes you through all these kind of twists and turns. I love the kind of dreamy, doomy beginning, right? And you got that awesome Tipton solo, and then you got that crazed KK solo where the song gets really heavy, and then just Halford just kind of lays everything to waste at the end. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, that probably is the greatest Priest closer of all time in terms of the series of things they go through on that. Yeah, great choice. Cool.
I don't know if you had any honorable mentions now that we're at the end of the two show episode here.
No, I didn't. I didn't come up with any. I mean, I could probably even do a third episode of this if I started thinking of it, but I stopped because that's 20 over two things. So I know I didn't have any, but yeah, go. Feel free to. I'd love to hear if you've got any.
I have one.
Okay.
And it might be the most predictable one that either one of us have picked here, but I just think that no matter how many millions of times I've heard this song, it's not millions, I'm exaggerating, obviously. I still think the ending is fantastic, and especially on their live album. I'm talking about Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd. Oh. And it's like when you go see them live, it's like you wait for that final, you got the great guitar solo at the end, and then you get all the guys out there, doing the harmony stuff and just kind of like just putting the stamp on the evening. And that's why I think like live, that song is best suited for. So whether it's their many live albums or if you go see them, in person. So I just want to throw that out there. It wasn't among my original picks, but I kept coming back to it. I'm like, it's the obvious choice. It's predictable, but it's still Freebird, right? So
yeah. Cool.
That's all I got.
All right.
That's all I got. So thanks everybody for watching. So in the comments below, make sure that you put in your favorite song endings. Again, metal, hard rock, prog, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Classic rock. There's a lot of good ones. I'm sure there's a ton that we didn't even touch on. But like Martin said, once you start like investigating this, it's like you open up the floodgates and you're like, holy cow, you could just come. I mean, there's so many great ones, right? And it's impossible to like remember all of them unless you go through like all the music you own. And sometimes the memory banks don't work as good as they should, right? But yeah, so this was fun. So I want to thank Martin for joining us here on this two-part series. We hopefully got more cool ones coming up for you on Friday mornings at the Funhouse. So visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. See you all real soon. Take care.